Did Jesus actually come to set us free from death? Or did He actually come to set us free from the theology of death? A lot of preachers today are standing behind the pulpit. 2,000 years ago, Jesus Christ came and He jerked us away from death and the grave, and now we stand victorious because of what Christ did 2,000 years ago. Can you say amen? I guess the question that I'm wrestling with is, did God ever lose control of those He created? Did Jesus come along 2,000 years ago because God lost us? See, that's a question that needs to be answered within you, because people in theology think that we were lost. We were away from God, and God was rescuing us back out of the clutches of the evil one, that is the devil. And we were under the grips of the devil, and it's like a contest. Here I'm God, and I'm wrestling with my adversary, and I'm wrestling over an individual who I created, actually my son. What led me to believe that God lost control of His children? It might have been a book that looked similar to this one. It might have been a preacher that was preaching on the wages of sin is death. You know, those kinds of people, they had theologies, not just one theology, but multiple kinds of theology concerning death, multiple kinds of theologies concerning grave. So did Jesus come to conquer death in the grave, or did He come to conquer the theology of death in the grave? When God created man, and He said that it was good, and if He is almighty, and if He really is in control, if He actually holds everything together, is there a possibility that He created us to live forever and we messed that up? See, that's what we're taught. Did God create us to die physically? Some people would say, no, that was because of the curse. What do you mean, the curse? Well, God placed a curse on humanity because one of His kids sinned. That sounds a little crazy, doesn't it? So, which is it? Which one do you believe? Did God punish His kids with death? Or did He create us to die? When and if God created man, did He create him to die, and at that point to go see Him? Or did He create him to live forever, and man messed it up, and sweet Jesus came much later in time to rescue us from death and the grave? I'm simply telling people everywhere, you're going to die. The evidence is there. When you die, you're going to go to be with your Father, and Jesus didn't come to make that a reality. He did not come 2,000 years ago to get you into heaven. That's a myth. If Jesus, namely God, would have never stepped into humanity, we would have gone to be with the Father. The purpose of Christ coming wasn't to prove that, oh, I'm going to conquer sin. I'm going to conquer the death issue. You won't have to be afraid of death any longer. It doesn't have clutches on you any longer. That sounds like preaching. That sounds like how we all got deceived into that kind of thinking. My point is, we've got to leave this kind of theology. I mean, it's pitiful, isn't it? When you go back and study the ancients, it wasn't the Jews first who started writing these crazy theologies. Those people called pagans started writing these theologies well before any of the Jews ever started writing anything. The horrible thing is, they all basically say the same kind of junk. They all suggest that we need a Savior. I'm simply saying that we don't need anyone to save us from our Father. He's good. He didn't create a world in which man messed it up and then God had to react to our mess-ups. That's not what He created. He created a place in which imperfection was just part of the process. Because imperfection is part of the process of growing. 2,000 years ago, Jesus came to set us free from those particular kinds of theology. Can you imagine a day in which man died and he was scared? I would imagine that some of you guys, from time to time, you get a little anxious when you get sick. And we all get anxious from time to time when we see loved ones die. We have all of these questions. We what if ourselves to death. All of us are anticipating a day in which we will die. In reality, death will happen. There's a form of a grave that's waiting for you, and you have a limited amount of time here on earth, and that should motivate you right now to grow up and start thinking. You know, some people that live as if, oh, I'm not happy here, I'm homesick for heaven and all that. You need to quit getting distracted with heaven and start living right now. Your children need you. Your children need you to work and work and work and work and love and love and love. They need your kindness. They need everything right now, not later on. They don't need someone so caught up in the Spirit that is worth nothing on this earth. Please, let's come back to our senses and quit playing mythology. Let's walk into the true aspects of what God has really called us to.